So ready for fall, and we're gonna ease into it and do a really calm eyeshadow look. Let's get into it. The palette that we're using today is the ColourPop Bare Necessities palette. This is a really great neutral palette, and there's like 30 shades in here, and there's a lot we can do with this. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep the base. I'm using the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. This is like a mini. She's so cute. This shade is a little bit too light for me, so I use this as kind of like eyeshadow primer or an eyeshadow base. But if you like to use eyeshadow primer, do your thing. I'm just gonna place a little bit on my lid and then just go ahead and blend it out with a concealer brush. And I'm gonna take this literally on the entire lid and taking it all the way up to the brow bone as well. For brushes, we're using the ColourPop Brush of an Eye brush set, and we are going to stick with the really tiny brushes today because we're doing a lot of detail. I promise it's still easier. So on the small angled brush, I'm picking up the shade called Taboo, which is basically like a dark brown, and we're basically going to create an eyeliner moment with this eyeshadow and this angled brush. And I'm keeping it really skinny because we're going to blend it out and create a blended, blurred, smoked out wing. And the more you blend it out, the thicker and more blown out it gets. So we're going to try and keep this really controlled. And I'm also going to take that all the way to the inner corner as well, because we're going to do kind of like an outer and inner corner wing. So I'm just going to line the entire eye and also try to keep it as skinny as possible. Go ahead and switch over to a shader brush. And I'm going in with the shade Hot, which is an orange shade because this is going to be a fall look. I'm going to put that right on top of the line we just created. So this brush is a little bit bigger than that angled brush, and it's going to kind of swallow up that original line that we put on, but we're going to go back in and deepen it up and darken it up. So I'm basically just putting it right on top of that initial eyeliner line, and then I'm going to use really light pressure to smoke out the top and blend it out to make it look nice and blurred. And then I'm also going to extend it a little bit further than the original eyeshadow wing. So now we have a longer, thicker wing, and the dark brown towards the lash line is going to kind of make it a little bit more defined, and darker towards the lash line so that it's like a gradient going from light to dark. And with a bigger, fluffier blending brush, I'm going in with the shade Hustler, which is kind of like a custard shade. And I'm just going to use this to set my crease area because the concealer is kind of creasing. And I'm just going to kind of use this as like a base because we're not really doing much toward the top of the lid, and I kind of just want it to be bare. Back in with that shader brush that has like excess of that orange on it, and I'm just going to blur this a little bit more and blend it into that, what is it, Hustler shade that we just put on. And also just make the orange a little bit more vibrant. Cleaned out the shader brush, and I'm going to go back in on its side and just blur out that top edge. Now I'm going to pick up the angled brush, and I'm going to darken up that initial line that we created a little bit more so you can kind of see it. And then as I'm applying it to the lash line, I'm also going to try to blend it into that orange by using just the tip of the brush to make the top of the line a little bit more blurred, while the part that is closest to the lash line is nice and dark. So again, this is just going to add a lot more definition to the lash line and deepen up the area that's closest to the eye. So I actually think I'm going to go in with black because I want it to be a little bit darker. And as we add like more color, it's just going to kind of fade out and get lighter and lighter. And as we blend, it's going to also kind of get rid of the saturation. So I'm going to go in with black and do the same exact thing, and trying to keep this as close to the lash line as possible. So that's basically it for the lid area. We're gonna go ahead and create the inner corner wing. I'm gonna go in with the angled brush and that dark brown shade because it's a little bit more forgiving than black eyeshadow. And I'm basically just going to kind of extend the upper lash line if it were to be a little bit longer, and just kind of map that out. And then connect the top with the lid and that eyeliner that we have, that eyeliner line. And then I'm going to go ahead, just connect the lower lash line to that point, but we're going to stay away from the tip of the point. We're just going to kind of fill this in. So I am going to go in with the black eyeshadow now that we have like the initial shape, and just deepen it up and make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to try to stay in the lines and not really mess with this shape too much, but just make it a little darker. Now, I really like using eyeshadow to create the inner corner wing because it's just easier to use and more forgiving than using like a eyeliner or a felt tip liner. And I always like to sharpen up this shape and clean it up because it is like a little bit big for this area and also a little blurry. So I like to take a really tiny concealer brush, and I'm taking the same concealer that we use to prep the lid. And I'm just going to go ahead on the underneath of this eyeliner wing and just kind of stamp the concealer on just to create a sharp line and also like a sharp point. And delete some of that excess shadow that is kind of making this like a really big triangle. And then again, just making this as pointy and sharp as possible. So this is like a really easy way to create this inner corner wing, even if you mess up somewhere. You can just clean it up with concealer. And then if it's still not as pointy as I want, I'm going to go back in with that angled brush, and I'm just going to literally extend the tip. And if it's too long, I'll go back in with the concealer and just kind of swipe away and keep it just where I want it. And I'm going to take a little brush and blend out that concealer, and I'm trying to stay away from the actual wing and the closest part of the concealer to the eyeshadow so that we're not blurring any lines, but I'm basically just kind of trying to blur out and blend out and blow out the concealer so it matches the rest of my face. And then I'm just going to set that with powder so that it doesn't move around. And we have an inner corner wing. So if you feel like this like inner corner is a little bit lighter than the rest of the under eye area, you can go ahead and take some of that concealer and just bring it down a little bit more and then blend it out. So I have done my face before I did my eyes because that's just the order that I do these videos in. If you want to do an eyeshadow look that requires you to kind of go a little bit further out than just the eyelid, like this inner corner and this under eye area, then I would suggest do your eyeshadow before your face. And now we have a seamless under eye blend with an inner corner wing. The upper eyeshadow area is basically done. I'm going to go ahead and clean up that outer wing by taking some concealer on a concealer brush, matching the shade that's going on under my eye, and we're just going to swipe and then clean it up. So this is going to create a really nice sharp line and sharp wing with that eyeshadow because again, eyeshadow is a little bit more blurry than literal eyeliner, and this is going to make it nice and sharp and also make both of your eyes symmetrical so that your eyeshadow wings are kind of like going in the same direction. So now that I have the complete eyeshadow look on, I feel like the wing needs to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to take some of that dark brown on the eyeliner brush, on the angled brush, and I'm just going to bring that darkness a little bit further out because I want the eyeshadow wing to be a little bit darker out here, and then I'm just using the tip of the angled brush to blend this out. And then going back in with that shader brush, I'm just going to add a little bit more orange right on top. And the eyeshadow look is done. So I'm going to go ahead and do mascara, and we are going to be complete with the first phase of this eyeshadow look. If you are new here, we like to do eyeshadow looks in phases. The first phase is the most wearable version of this look, and we kind of go through phases of drama, so this is going to be the most natural phase of this eyeshadow look. I'm going in with Rimmel London Scandaleyes mascara, and I'm just going to put that only on the upper lash line. Okay, and this is the finished look with just mascara on the upper lash line. So this is super cute, very wearable. It was very easy. You don't even have to do the inner corner wing if you don't want to, but I feel like it just adds something to this look, especially when we finish everything and do the lower lash line, which we're about to get into right now. So for the lower lash line, I'm actually going to line my waterline with a brown liner, and this is the ColourPop BFF Cream Gel Liner in the shade Sunny Veil, which is not really like a dark, cool tone brown, but this is more of like a warm toned, lighter brown. And we're gonna just put this right in the waterline, and I'm also gonna kind of drag it through the lash line as well to make it easier to smoke out and like have a nice, clean blend. Definitely not as harsh as a black waterline, but it's still very eye-popping. So I'm going to take a clean shader brush and I'm just going to kind of blend out that eyeliner without even picking up any eyeshadow, and just kind of take it a little bit further and smoke out the lower lash line. And I am going to go in with that orange shade just to tie everything together. And I'm going to put that right under the eyeliner and just kind of let it peek through at the bottom because I don't want to take this down too far. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some mascara. And this is the final look of the second phase. So this is with mascara only and a smoked out lower lash line. So again, this is like super wearable, but it also still has some drama to it and also makes your eyes pop really well. Also, these tones like browns and oranges are really beautiful on blue eyes and on brown eyes and on green eyes. But this just really makes my eyes pop beautifully. So now the last phase is going to be adding lashes for the maximum amount of drama. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. Lashes today, I'm using the Lily Lashes Half Lash in the style Inviting. And this one is really flared out toward the ends, which is going to be perfect for this kind of eyeliner look. So I'm going to place this right toward the outer corner. Pull her out. And then secure the inner corner. And then the middle. And then just push the entire lash band into the skin. And then I'm going to take my fingers and we're going to squish it. So with these half lashes, I like to kind of leave the inner corner going straight, and then the outer corner I like to push up to create a really beautiful flare and like wing, natural eye wing. And then I also like to leave a couple of my natural lashes just kind of poking out at the end so it looks a little bit more natural. And lastly, I like to take some black liner and just line my tight line to blur or blend in the lash a little bit more, so that you can't really see that like piece of skin. And it's just the details like this that really take your look to the next level and also make everything just look so much more clean. And also, if you are tightlining your line, if you are lining your tight line with black liner, you want to make sure that the liner that you're using is not going to bleed into your lower lash line, especially if we're using a different color like brown. So you want to make sure that the liner stays put after it dries down. And this is the Tarte double take liner. This one really doesn't budge, and throughout the day it kind of can bleed through, but this one I find that it doesn't do that, which is perfect for looks like these, or even if you want to do like a bare lower lash line and have like a doll look with a full upper lid, full lashes on the top, and then a bare lower lash line, creating like that beautiful open-eyed, doe-eyed look. Then when you tightline, you want to make sure that that eyeliner is not getting into your waterline, because that's just going to defeat the purpose. So this is the final look. I really love how it came out. It's definitely giving fall. Everything is looking snatched and it's like not too dramatic, but it's still very pretty. Definitely let me know what you think about this eyeshadow look. I love it. I love an eyeshadow eyeliner moment. It's so easy to create, and this one is like giving drama even though the shades are not as harsh as eyeliner. So let me know what you think. Thank you again so much for watching. If you have any other video suggestions you'd like to see from me, please let me know. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!